That's it, we're live.
Excellent. Are people entering the room now?
Yes. Yeah, people are coming in.
Excellent.
The chat is unmuted.
I'm not getting the chat from the side here set up by the looks of it. Okay, screen share's off.
Fayaz from Dubai has joined in the chat room. Thanks, Fayaz. Leanne from Edinburgh. Hi, Leanne.
Okay. Oh, here we go. Mark's in the room. Here we go. Soddy's in.
Hello.
Hey, and Anthony.
Finally.
How are we doing?
Very good.
That's a beautiful lampshade you've got there.
It's not mine.
No? Whereabouts are you?
I'm actually in the meditation room.
And we are live as well.
Yes, we're live now, by the way.
Would you I'm in the meditation room.
Yes.
At WeWork in downtown. Well, it's not downtown, but it feels like downtown. Los Angeles.
Okay.
And so I'm just closing down a couple of things as we start. Are we almost ready to start?
Yeah, we're good to go. We're just welcoming everyone into the room.
Hello, Richard.
Hey, how you doing, Dad? Nice to see you.
So we've got Jeff's in. Augustus is in. Steve from London is in. Monica.
The police didn't get our message in time. Soddy's in.
Yes, yeah, and Sandeep from India. Hello, Sandeep.
Where are you, Danny?
Where am I? I'm in my office.
Excellent. What have you got behind the white sheet?
Behind the white sheet here?
You never ask a wizard what's behind his sheet.
Never ask those kind of questions. you wouldn't like the answer to those.
I can hear groaning coming from behind the sheet.
Yeah.
It's a very nice red T-shirt, though.
Say again?
It's a very nice red T-shirt.
It is. I'm completely shocked. I don't know what. He's going to change now while we've got the slides up. Black.
Yes, that means I can switch out my clothing every time I drop the slides back down. I can be wearing something else.
Okay. Now while we're doing this, I'm going to see if I can attempt to tell me where I must do this thing again, Richard.
You go to the Hangout toolbox.
Yeah, I've got it.
Okay, so Leanne is saying here that the video is not working on YouTube. I'm not sure we're actually live streaming this at this moment in time, Leanne. You're probably better off logging in the traditional route, the same as the other members of the audience. Nikki's having problems too. Okay, so Nikki, maybe just reboot the screen, go to the top and refresh the page and see if that works for you.
Webinar Jam video is not working. It's not working on Webinar Jam.
Yeah, okay, well Steve said he's watching from YouTube. Hold on, my screen says playback has been disabled by owner. YouTube okay, webinar not, is saying Richard.
Okay, I'm not aware that there's...
So guys, if you're watching on YouTube at this stage and you're having problems, join the webinar. And if you're in the webinar and you're having problems, if you refresh your screen, that should reset everything. Right, Leanne's now saying YouTube is okay.
Okay.
I must say it's very hot in here in LA.
It's hot in LA, is it?
Have I mentioned that before?
I can see
Surprise.
you're sweating. Are you sure you're not in the actual sauna?
That was quite funny for you. Now, what I'm just playing with things here. Okay.
Should we get started?
Yes.
Okay.
So saying click on the link.
I managed to get my signature working, I think.
Yes. Are you there?
Yes. Are we starting? Okay, that's
yes,
nice.
Please. Would you like to do the introductions?
Apologies, we're a couple of minutes late. I was running a little bit late myself this morning and ran here, hence the warmer look. So thanks for joining us. You are joining a webinar which is about invading Europe, and we gave a version of this presentation in London last week and the week before, and we've changed this presentation slightly in that we are catering for two markets here. We're catering for people who already have a British or UK listing on Amazon and how you port into the US, so how you port into Europe. And we've also got a section towards the end of the presentation where we're looking at people who are not yet trading in the UK and are not based in the UK or Europe, and how you'd set up and implications with regards to VAT and getting established there. So we'll cover both of those as we go through the presentation. In the room, you've probably already seen Danny, who's switched over to the slides. Welcome, Danny.
Welcome, everyone.
And moderating today, the ever so beautiful James Bond lookalike, the Welsh wizard, the silver fox, Richard.
The money is in the post. Thanks, Dad.
I do his PR. I found his first 3 wives for him. They were all looking for him at the same time. Right, where are the slides? Let's kick in. So we are the Amazon seller. We started out with a meetup group in the UK that's just past 1,350 members of active UK sellers, or people who are seriously considering a life-changing experience by setting up an Amazon business. I moved to LA last year and I set up a meetup here, which has got just over 300. I think it's about 350 we just passed. Can't actually see the screen now. There we go. We've just passed 350 members there. So we meet physically in London and Los Angeles on a monthly basis, sometimes a bit more frequently. And we've launched this webinar to complement the Facebook group. The Facebook group is just over 2,000 members, and that's where we carry on the conversations outside of the physical meetups. And then we've launched a webinar recently to bring to the table a live element where we can reach people around the world. Okay, so quickly what's coming up. We've got, on the 22nd of September, we've got a physical meeting in Los Angeles. We've called it the Mastermind Mashup. It's basically open house. We usually get about 40 to 50 people turn up, and it's from people who are considering it right the way through to experts. And I have a rough agenda that we follow, but then we take a lot of questions along the way, and we attempt to leave everybody feeling like they have gained something on their Amazon journey during that meeting. Then on the 20th and 27th of September, big meetings there. We're presenting pay-per-click, and all of our meetings this year have been focused towards getting everybody ready for Black Friday. So this is the pay-per-click. We're fully booked on the 20th. We've still got some places available on the 27th. And the idea there is that we will equip you so that between the 27th of September and the end of October, you can get your pay-per-click campaigns tuned, set up, tested, ready to make the maximum impact with Black Friday and into Christmas. And then at the end of October, we've got a USA meetup. Deepak from Currencies Direct, who's enjoying yet another long extended holiday at the moment. He's joining us in Los Angeles, and we're presenting pay-per-click to our American Los Angeles physical group. And Deepak's going to be presenting Currencies Direct and their product offerings, which we'll touch on later today, because it's products that we use and we're happy to shout out about them. Our next online webinar after this one is Will, and I can never pronounce his name.
Turland.
It's exactly what I was going to say, you know.
Yes.
Don't test me on that one. So we've got Will. Will's a power seller. He's about 13 years old. He's been selling on Amazon for about 4 years, and he's got massive revenues. And he's going to share with us how he can help us to become.
Will, if you're listening, I'm sorry for Anthony's comment, and yes, we'd still like to see you on the 14th of September, brother.
I'm sure Will's got a sense of humour. If not, we can find.
No, he has. He's very dry in terms of his sense of humour. So no, he'll love that. So big shout out to Will, and then obviously the follow up is one of my favourites. I'm looking forward to is the Amazon ranking factors, and we're just securing the lineup for that. So it's going to be all the biggest guys in the game are going to be sharing their experiences across PPC and organic search, and how they kind of work together and integrate. So we've got a lot of geeky fellows coming on with mountains of data, and they're going to share some of their experiments and experiences with the audience.
Fantastic. That sounds exciting. How many people have we got lined up for that one so far?
5 so far. I'm not going to reveal who they are just yet, but let's just say they're all pretty much, in terms of Amazon, they're household names. But they've never all been. Yeah, they've never actually all been put in the same room together, if you like. So
there's probably a reason for
that. Probably, yeah, and we're all going to find out.
Excellent. Right, cool. Thank you. And Danny's pulled those last 2 together for us, so that's a great shout out to Danny for using his very little black book to pull in some big numbers. Okay, so now we're going to pass you over to Richard, and we're going to run through a couple of news stories. It's a section we take every time we do a webinar, just so that we don't bore you with what we're here to talk about. We're just going to quickly give you some news and views from around the world.
Okay, before we jump into the news stories, can I just ask everyone in the chat room, if you've got any questions, feel free to post them up as you go along. We'll be collating them here so that we can ask them as we go through the webinar. Also, I've just opened up a poll, so if you go over to the polls tab, you'll see there's a question there that's asking how many times have you attended the Amazon seller meetups? So if you can pop in there and just let us know if you've been to any previously. Thanks.
Okay, do you want to go into the first news story?
Okay, first news story we have, it's talking about how a Chinese seller figures out what Western online shoppers want. And it talks around how Chinese sellers are now using some of the similar techniques that we ourselves use as Amazon sellers.
And so, Anthony, what I found quite interesting, what I pulled out from this story was roughly about 30% of apparel sellers are from China, and in 2015 alone, there's a 100% increase in sales from Chinese sellers. And one seller has 31 product locations in the United States. It's not clear whether they're in FBA centers or that he's got his own facility set up in those states, but quite impressive numbers.
So what are the Chinese sellers doing to work out what Western shoppers want?
Well, they're basically reviewing the same processes that we've done when we look at good and bad reviews, but this isn't part of the article. I must put this in as the disclaimer, but I actually spoke to a few people from my private mastermind group last week, and I won't go into graphic detail, but there are a lot of training taking place in China at the moment at scale, and what they're teaching a lot of these people on these courses is to actually don't bother doing any research. All you're going to need to do, go and take a look at AMS Tracker and the review groups, see what everyone else is selling. All the research is done on your, done for you. So don't worry about that process. That gives you a perfect indication of what the American market say demands, which is quite interesting.
Okay.
So I don't know if you've got an opinion on that.
No, I haven't really. I think a lot of people get very excited about all these Chinese sellers, and for me, they're just another seller.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. I mean, when I was over in Canton, hold on, I just name dropped, I'll pick that up off the floor. When I was over in Canton and Hong Kong last, I had dinner with a lot of Chinese sellers, and to be honest, I want to learn from them as well, because they're trying to learn a lot from what we do in, say, the UK and in the US, and I found it quite intriguing to understand how they operate. So I see people as competition is general. It doesn't matter if you're a Chinese seller or an English seller or you're an Indian seller. It doesn't matter. At the end of the day, we're all working on these marketplaces, and I just see them as fellow competitors.
I think we should just go and buy Chinese factories, because at the end of the day, when a manufacturer cuts out all of the middlemen, ourselves, retailers, and so on and so forth, when a manufacturer actually works out, there's some young kid that works in the organisation jumps onto Amazon and starts going from manufacturer, correctly and legally through into Amazon. There's already a lot of worried people. So I think everyone's talking about getting off Amazon. I think we should buy a manufacturer.
Yeah.
Anyway,
let's go to the next one. Do you want to step in on this one, the wizard?
Yeah, sure. So the next story is talking about basically hijacking. So Amazon is now taking measures to try and limit the ability about brand registry. Anything you want to add to that, Dan?
I think I'd like to hand this one to Anthony, to be honest. I think I'd like to get his perspective on this one.
Look, I know I was a couple of minutes late to the webinar, but I feel like I'm being stitched here. But I'll throw something in. So essentially, what's going down is Amazon are introducing a fee and a process for people that are selling what they consider to be brands, and a lot of people got excited about this because they're assuming that with brand registry that gives them that protection. And I'm not sure whether Amazon are going as far as that. So if you happen to be launching your spatula and you've got brand registry, I'm not sure whether Amazon are actually going to be offering you any more protection as a result of this. I think this is protection for the big brands like your Marks and Spencers and your Le Creuset and your Moulinex and so forth. Yeah. Yep. And so I think a lot of the Facebook groups have got it wrong. I think this isn't going to filter down. I think the problem with hijackers is still going to be there. And I saw a post today in our group about someone where they received a letter saying you're a hijacker on my listing.
Yeah.
Amazon don't really want to get involved because they don't know that you haven't gone to the corner shop and bought one of those widgets, and they don't know that we as sellers, where we say that we're the manufacturer and the brand and have brand registry, they don't know that we actually haven't sold 100 to a corner shop without a contract that stops them selling them on Amazon.
Yeah.
So I think Amazon, everyone gets frustrated with Amazon about hijacking this and the other, but Amazon are doing exactly what we would do in the same situation, and I don't think it's a problem that's going to go away quickly. At the end of the day, if the customer gets a good product at a good price, then so be it. I think the process for the sellers to find that the blue spatula you're selling with brand registry is being hijacked by someone that's actually selling an egg slicer. I think that process could be sped up a little bit, because often those products are coming from China, so you spend 4 weeks to physically get the product to prove that it's the wrong product, and then by that time the listing's gone, they've moved on to another listing.
Yeah.
I think it's a work in progress, but I think this is for the big brands myself.
Well, if anyone's got any feedback in the comments, maybe drop some notes in there. Maybe you've dealt directly with Amazon on this. Now, some of the comments I read on one of the news stories said, please be clear on this. It's just exactly what you're saying. This isn't just the end of days for hijackers. But they did say in there that there is a mutual beneficial process that can be put in place, but you have to contact Amazon directly. So the example that they gave is that, say for instance, they did have someone selling a counterfeit item on their listing, and it was proven to be that as a counterfeit, and it can be proven categorically, then Amazon, they reached out to Amazon and spoke with them about it, and Amazon gave them that layer of protection. Now, I don't know how clear that is, because it's just a comment in someone's article. Okay, but there's that to bear in mind, is that, say for instance you are someone like Nike and you are getting constantly sellers that are, you know, hijacking, if you want to use that term of phrase, on your listing, then maybe there are some levels of protection that they go, okay, this is a problem, these are big sellers, they're obviously not authorized, we'll lock down their listing. But obviously that's got to be cleared up, and it'd be good to actually find out from people what the actual true lay of the land is.
Yeah.
So, should we move into the next section?
Yeah, Richard, I've seen a couple of people saying they can't hear us or see us.
Yeah, we're still showing plenty of people in the room.
Okay, so let's just hit refresh if for some reason it freezes.
So, someone was asking on the YouTube video regarding the poll is not available. Just for you guys watching on YouTube, that there isn't any functionality for the poll. That's only if you're in the room, guys. So sorry about that.
Yes.
Right, let's move on. Okay.
Who's that?
That's
So
me.
I'm not going to get the opportunity to talk about Danny's art project.
Yeah.
Okay, so
Clip art.
just go back, Danny, just so we can introduce the thing. Can somebody make a comment on the wall if they can hear us?
Okay.
Great. No one can hear us. I'm going to go and get some coffee.
No, YouTube is frozen. Webinar has stopped working.
We show plenty of people in the room.
Yes. Okay.
Yes.
Everybody. Yes. Okay. Right.
Okay.
So we're going to talk about trading in Europe, and the first thing with trading in Europe is we're going to make the assumption that you already have a UK listing for your product. So if we click on, so Amazon have been doing some funny things over the last 5-6 months, and a number of my listings in the UK have suddenly started appearing in France and Germany without me having done anything. And I think what Amazon are doing is I think they're actually scraping the UK listings and they're starting to populate them and do a basic translation into Europe. And if that happens for you and you finish up getting your listings there, great. You'll see at the bottom of your offers page that the 4 European countries, France, Germany, Italy and Spain, will come up and it'll give you the opportunity to put a price in. And in doing that, then you've got listings in those countries, and then you can go ahead and you can amend the listings and start trading there. The only guaranteed way, or the only guaranteed way to automate creating your listings in those countries is to use the international listings tool. And you click it within the UK back end of Seller Central, and then basically what you do is it gives you the opportunity to choose a source marketplace. So in this example, you'll be choosing the UK as your source marketplace, and then it presents you with an opportunity to set rules on pricing. And basically, you can choose whether your price is the same as in the UK, and then Amazon will do a currency conversion to convert it into euros. Or you can say that you'd like the price in the European countries to be under or over your UK price, either as a percentage above or over, or as an amount above or above or over, above or below, or as an amount above or below. Now, one of the things I wanted to say here is don't make this mistake of you want to get set up in the UK and in Europe, and you go and create your UK listing, and 5 minutes later you run the international listings tool, and then you wonder why you're not set up all across Europe. The best thing to do is to set your listing up in the UK and amend your listing and get it all up and running. Wait 24 hours, then run the international listings tool, because Amazon populates a lot of databases behind the scenes that we don't know about, and it's best to just let the best to let the listings populate and then run the international listings tool. Once you've run the international listings tool, what it does is it automatically creates all of your UK listings in each of the countries in Europe that you've specified, and it takes your pricing rules and applies the pricing. Now, in theory, you then have your listings up and running in Europe. You can make some amendments to some of the text, you can add translations, which we'll come on to in a moment, and you're in business. Now, the problem with the international listings tool is that a bright person in Amazon thought, oh, wouldn't it be great to hit a button and have everybody trading in Europe? But what they didn't consider is that a lot of people want to offer a sale. And unless someone corrects me, as soon as you create a sale price and a start date and end date for your sale in Europe, you break the link with the International Listings Tool, and the International Listings Tool, which in theory, if you change your UK price, would automatically change your European prices based on the rules you've set, will stop working. So what I do is I create my listings in the UK, I run the International Listings Tool, I get them all set up in Europe, I then go in and amend the listings, I put my pricing in, the link is broken, but it saved me the hassle of going in initially and creating those listings. The next problem you have is when you launch more products in the UK and you want to create your listings again in Europe. If you run the International Listings Tool again, it'll overwrite every change you've made on all of your other products. So it's reasonably fair to say a fairly useless tool, because most of you will start with one product and then you'll scale it to 2 or 3, and you'll only get to 10 or 20 somewhere further down the track, and that's when the tool could really be useful, if you could actually select the products and launch them internationally, but it doesn't do it. So use it or don't use it, otherwise you've got to go manually into each of the European countries and create your listings. But if you get a chance, if you've got enough products, you can use it once, and once only, to throw all your listings into Europe. Okay, so with your listings created either via the International Listings Tool or manually, you've updated the parts you can. One tip is to use the Chrome browser, because it'll auto-translate anything that's in a foreign language by way of listings or titles to make it easier for you to understand what the values are you might want to select from a drop-down list. And the next thing to do is to add professional translations and professional pay-per-click campaigns. Now, you'll find that Amazon from time to time will give you free translations, but it'll only give you 2 or 3 words. And there is a professional translation service within Amazon. I haven't personally tested it, and I haven't heard anybody that has, and we don't know whether the people using that professional translation, using the Amazon translation, are the same people that you might find on Fiverr or otherwise. So we've got no feedback on that there, but you know, for completeness, it's there. So the next thing with your listing is to create professional translations for the countries that you're going to be selling in, and professional pay-per-click campaigns. Right, so this is a photo of Richard.
Thank you.
A couple of years ago. Just like out. Okay, Danny.
Okay, so with regards to translations, it's always good to get yourself a checklist together. So the most obvious ones are going to be your title, your bullets, the description, your back-end keywords. If you're using infographics to articulate your product, whether that's sent direct to the customer or as part of your email sequences. And then, of course, you've got your product images. In some cases, you may have some overlay text, so it's worth getting those translated. And again, going back to the email sequences, what I would suggest here to do as well is to come up with a few different subject lines as well, just so that you can test those as you're putting your sequences together in those territories and work out what ones work best for you. Now, the downside with translation is that the people that do this are generally can have only, they mainly have the one skill set, which is they're good with language and they'll do the dialect and they'll do the translation, but they're not necessarily good with understanding keyword research, conversion copy, you know, sales copy, all those elements that make your product listing tick. So that is something that you're always going to kind of hit a brick wall with, if you like. So for instance, if you're doing a US listing, you might be really good at doing the optimization end of things but not great at writing copy. You can send that off to someone to deal with, and that's fine, because you come back, you can read it, you can approve it. But when it's in different languages, and especially in multiple languages, it makes it that much harder. So if you are on a budget, which a lot of people are when they're starting out, especially if you want to launch into the unknown, which is in Europe, I mean, you've got good territories such as Germany and France seem to sell quite well for most people, but Italy and Spain can be a bit sleepy on the numbers. So what I would suggest here is, if you want to take a quick screen grab of this, these are the 4 people that I've used in the past. Now, I filtered those down. I went on to Fiverr. I then found 3 people from Germany, 3 from France, 3 from Spain, and 3 from Italy. And I whittled them down by showing each other's the works that they produced. And I got them down to what I thought was the best from the feedback. So I probably spent about $100 across the board there. Now, I'm not saying that you should do this long term. This is purely as a form of, rather than not translating your listings, this is a step inward of getting your listings translated on a budget, and if they work well, then you can spend bigger bucks later and invest on better listings or improved listings. Over to you, Anthony.
Okay, so I just there's a question up from Simon there, Richard.
Yeah.
Oh.
Right, I'm having a problem with the chat on my end at the moment. Can you read it out for us?
Okay, I'll take it. So Simon's saying Amazon only recommend using Firefox, not Chrome. Basically, that's correct. The only browser that Amazon support is Firefox. So if you have a problem with something not showing in a screen and you're using Chrome or Safari and you raise a case, one of the things they'll hide behind initially will be to say, well, if you can recreate it on Firefox, then we'll take you seriously. So I think it's only really from a support point of view that I would worry about whether you use Firefox or not. I use Safari and I use Chrome when I need translations. And I know that if I'm going to raise a case with Amazon, I'm going to have to recreate it in Firefox for them to take it seriously. Okay, so this is a review that Richard wrote under his alias for one of the products I sell. Which is some cream for a certain discomfort.
So what cream is it?
Lovely.
I can't remember. It's an old product of mine.
Right. Okay.
Danny actually bought my business out on this one. He took all my stock and I've never seen it listed again. Yes. Okay, so let's quickly talk about product reviews.
Yeah.
With the next slide. There we go.
Slow bandwidth.
So when you're starting in Europe, every single European country you start from 0 with reviews. The European customers are known to be tough reviewers. So even if you're giving products away for free through a review group, you could still get yourself a 3-star or a lower star rating than that. The Germans are, from personal experience, tough reviewers, followed by the French, and it's all fairly quiet in Italy and Spain in terms of my portfolio. So you're going to start with 0 reviews. You'll often find fairly angry reviews written. People seem to take it very, very personally, whether they pay for the product or whether it's a free product. The good news is that, certainly different to the States and to a lesser extent to the UK, you don't need hundreds of reviews to show enough of a metric to a customer for them to take you seriously. So reasonably, you're looking at somewhere between 10 and 15 reviews with an average review rating of about 4.2, and you will be taken very seriously in Europe. Okay, so this is one of Danny's early slides.
I've done that when I was at school this week, Dad.
when we let him have a little play around with clip art. And let's talk about your stock. So for your stock for Europe, basically, if you're using FBA, you're going to have your products in the European store. And in the European, sorry, let me start again. You're going to have your products in the UK warehouse. And when somebody in Europe goes to the French, German, Spanish, or Italian site, finds your product listing and buys your product, the EU customers buying are going to get sent that product from the UK warehouse, and they're going to be offered, assuming they're a member of Prime, they're going to be offered Prime +1. Now, what that means is that in the UK, if you order something on the Monday, you'll get it on the Tuesday. If you're in Germany and you order something from the German site on the Monday, it will come from the UK warehouse of your store, and they'll get it on the Wednesday. So the European orders from the listings you've just created in Europe get sent from the UK through to Europe. Takes a day longer, but European customers know this and they accept this. There isn't so much choice that they can be bothered as to whether it becomes 1 day or 2 days. And a lot of online businesses in Europe, UK included, you can order something and you might only get it 5 or 10 days later. So to order something from Amazon and if you're in Europe only get it 2 days later is bliss for the majority of people. There can be delays. There are strikes. I mean, the UK is an island, and so somehow or other you have to get under the water, over the water, or through it. And so there can be strikes, there can be delays, and I've had a couple of people complain that they ordered something and it didn't arrive for 5 or 6 days. But Amazon will handle all those queries, and they'll handle them reasonably well from my experience. Okay, so let's talk about returns. A couple of people have asked about returns over the years, and basically when so let's say somebody in Germany buys your product, they don't like it, and they contact Amazon in Germany to return it, it doesn't get returned to the UK. More often than not, it gets returned to an FBA warehouse that Amazon have got in the Czech Republic. I think there's a couple of other warehouses they use as well, but your goods get sent, in this example, back to the Czech Republic. They're examined at FBA and either put back on sale, or they're marked as customer damaged or defective. The customers don't know where the goods are going. The goods are just being collected and sent off. And then what happens is that stock becomes part of your European inventory. So the next person that comes along in Germany to buy that product, it will be the one that's available for sale from the Czech warehouse that will be sent, and you won't pay 2 lots of fees to get the product to that customer. You'll pay just one fee as though it's a local European purchase. Now, there's a little quirk and a bug within the Amazon system, in that if let's say you've got 200 items in stock in the UK, one gets sold to somebody from a German purchase and it gets returned, the German inventory, as far as Amazon Germany are concerned, is 1. So you might get random emails saying you're about to go out of stock, or once that 1 is sold, you'll get an email saying you have gone out of stock. And the first time I got that, I raised cases and I was going, ballistic, because I'm saying, well, hold on a sec, I've still got 500 of these in the UK. And it's a quirk in the Amazon system, but you'll see from your inventory list that all of your stock is still showing, but it's a bug that they haven't ironed out. Let's talk about fees. So when somebody purchases in the UK from the UK warehouse, there's a sales fee and there's a fulfillment fee. When somebody purchases your product from Germany, you'll still pay the sales fee, which is usually 15% by category, and then you'll pay a fee called the European fulfillment fee, or the EFN fee. Now, this is instead of any UK fulfillment fees. So your sales commission for the privilege of Amazon selling the product for you, of 15% usually, comes out, but instead of paying your UK fulfillment fees, you'll pay European fulfillment fees, and you won't pay the UK fees. Now, there's a lookup on the, there's a amazon.co.uk, you can have a look up there. It will show you the fee for each different country. The fees in France, Spain and Italy are quite heavily reduced because those markets are struggling for Amazon. And typically where you are paying a UK fulfillment fee of £2, you'll pay a European fulfillment fee of about €4. So you're looking at about £1.50 more for that German sale to reach Germany from the UK warehouse. Now, what you can do is you can take all of your product listings, you can put all your prices in, you can deduct the fulfillment fee and add on the European fulfillment fee, and you can get Excel to tell you what price you should be charging. And then you can round it up or round it down to make it a more attractive number. Or you can just say, which is what often I do, because I have a lot of listings and I don't want to waste hours and hours on spreadsheets for 10 cents or 20 cents. You can just say, as long as you're adding on about £2 onto the sale price in euros of the product in the European marketplace, you're pretty spot on and you're not going to lose money out of that sale. In fact, they're probably going to make a little bit more money. Okay, so then let's look at options for your stock. Now, the great thing about Europe is you can put your stock into the British warehouses and you can fulfill right across Europe. You don't need, as in the States, you don't need to put stock in a Canadian warehouse, a Mexican warehouse, and an American warehouse. You can put it all in a UK warehouse, create all your listings across Europe, and as people buy, it gets fulfilled from your UK warehouses. But as we've said before, you're paying the fulfillment fee, which is about £1.50, maybe £2 on a standard item, more expensive. So the other option you can do, and our advice would be to test the market first. If you find that you're selling a ton of goods in Germany, then you can bulk ship to German warehouses. All you do is you go into the German store, you create a shipping plan just as you would for the UK or the US. It will tell you which warehouses to send the stuff to, and you can send the warehouses via whatever shipping agent, courier, freight forwarder you use direct from your manufacturer to that, for example, German warehouse or warehouses, and then you've got stock in Germany. The other way you could do it is you can also create the shipping plan in Germany. You've got a shipping plan in the UK as well, for example. You get your manufacturer to ship to the UK, and then your freight forwarder in the UK will split your stock and send some of your stock to the UK and some of your stock to Germany based on your instructions. And we'll come on to pan-European inventory in just a moment. I just want to tell you one little quirk on shipping your goods to Germany, for example. If you've got 100 in stock in the UK and you've got 200 in stock in Germany, you have to watch your stock levels very carefully, because if you sell out in the UK, Amazon will still fulfill from Germany to your UK customers, and you'll be paying a higher fee because you'll be paying the European fulfillment fee in reverse. So when you start doing distributed stock, you need to take cognizance of the fact that you need to watch your inventory levels closely and switch off a listing if you don't want to pay those extra fees if you're on a low margin product. Let's move on to pan-European inventory.
Before you move off of that, Dad, Richard's asked the question about what about having to be VAT registered in each country?
We're going to cover that in a bit later.
Yeah, let me answer it now, because it's a quick one. We're covering VAT, but in a slightly different way later on. So when a country when a country joins the European Union, one of the many things they sign up for is their VAT rules, and each country either decides whether they are going to have a VAT threshold whereby a business can trade without having to collect any VAT, and that threshold is either 30,000 euros or 100,000 euros. Now, I keep forgetting that to look this up, because I know Germany has, I think it's, and someone can correct us in the room here, Germany has a VAT threshold of 30,000 euros and France has a VAT threshold of 100,000 euros. And each country in Europe you'll find has a different VAT threshold. But once you are trading as a business and you've passed that VAT threshold for a country, in a rolling 12-month period, you will need to register for VAT in that country. And I'm just going to pick up on another Richard's point here, where he's talking about Canadian orders from US FBA stock. My understanding is that you're not running that as FBA. I think what you're doing is you've people in Canada are. Am I correct in saying they're doing that as a merchant? You're not doing it as an FBA, a fully automated FBA transaction. And maybe you could throw something on the side. Yeah. So Jeff's just confirmed 100,000 for Germany, and therefore it will be 30,000 for France. But you can Google it and look it up. It's one way or the other, and that's how we handle VAT. And it's interesting, and I took it then because when we talk about pan-European inventory, VAT is an implication as we talk about it. So Amazon have come up with this great new concept called pan-European inventory. Now, the cynic would say that this is Amazon's latest attempt to get Spain and Italy and even a bit of France to fly, and there's a fair amount of truth in that. But the business reason that Amazon have put forward that they've launched pan-European inventory is you can switch this facility on, and then what Amazon does is Amazon treats every single warehouse in Europe, including the UK, as one country, conceptually. So what that means is that just at the moment, if you put stock into an Amazon warehouse in the UK, Amazon will decide that actually they want 50 in that warehouse and they want 100 in that warehouse, so that the goods are closer to where the customers are likely to be buying from them, so they can keep their costs down for delivery and guarantee the timeframes. Pan-European inventory is you giving Amazon permission for them to treat your stock as European stock. So that means that if you've got 1,000 items in the UK and they see that you're starting to sell some items in Germany, they will take, at their cost, 100 items out of your UK warehouse and they'll put 100 into one or more German warehouses, and so on through all the European countries. Now, that's great, because in doing that and signing up for that, you don't pay any European fulfillment fees. So every transaction in Europe becomes a local transaction. Someone buys in Germany, you pay just German fees. In France, just French fees and so on. And so you're saving about £1.50 per transaction on a standard size item. So it's a brilliant concept. One of the rules is you can't choose the countries. You have to be in all countries. So, comes back to the cynical point of it's a way to get people to create listings in Spain, because most people are not bothering because the Spanish market is moving so slowly. So it's a brilliant piece of business maneuvering from Amazon to say, we'll offer you much lower fees and you won't have to worry about where your stock is. It will just be across Europe and we'll take care of it at our cost. But the downside, we'll come on to the downside in a moment, but it's Amazon's way to get you, in offering that to you, to get you to have listings in all of those countries, which can't be bad, because even if you're selling one in Spain a month, it's still another sale. Now, so what Amazon does is it ships your inventory as Amazon sees its needs, just the same as it would do in the States or it does in the UK at the moment. No fees, all local sales essentially. There's one big problem, which is VAT. And it's the same argument that people have in the States about Nexus and sales tax. The argument here is that Amazon have got warehouses in the Czech Republic and a couple of other places that aren't France, Germany, Italy and Spain. And there's the conspiracy theorists, or not, depending on which side you sit, that say you have to be registered with VAT in all of those countries because you have Nexus there, you actually got a trading business in those countries. So it's a great offering from Amazon, but you need to get independent VAT advice on the side. And the people that are advertising, doing webinars and seminars on offering you that VAT advice, I've heard figures of £1,000, £2,000 a month charges to register your VAT. So once again, it's a case of trade in Europe, start seeing which countries are working for you. If you find that you've got products that appeal massively to Europe, then garner that appeal first and then incur the costs later by getting yourself set up in a much more structured manner. Any questions, Richard?
So we've got a question about last time. So Steve is asking last time. Amazon.com. I don't know if there's anything to add on that one.
Yeah, Steve's saying about last time he applied, and I've had the same thing, Steve. I've written to seller support here in the States, and I've said, tell me how Canada works, and they came back and said no idea with a smiley face. And then seriously they answered and they said that you can't have FBA stock in the States and treat Canada as another customer that buys from your stock. You have to physically move stock to Canada. Now, it's just the same as if you're based in the UK, you can have your goods sent effectively via merchant to other countries. I think that's where people are getting confused between the two. But we'll try to get some clarity. Maybe we'll put a show note on this too. Can
I just veer slightly off subject? An interesting thing on Canada. I don't know if anyone's seen this. There was a little bit of news on it on podcasts, and I had the same issue with one of my listings. But there's a company called Arcade Mall, and basically it looks like they're using software, and it's got, I don't know, possibly over 100,000 listings maybe, of where they're doing drop shipping from the US to Canada. And so for my product alone, or one of my products, it's up for about 90 or 70 bucks with $10 charge for delivery as well. So that's a quite interesting one. So I think what's happening, a lot of people are not exercising and using Canada because it's one of those smaller areas where you don't know whether it's worth the investment, but someone's gone ahead and is on all these different listings there, and they are selling our products to Canadian customers for triple the price.
Yeah. I think, unless I'm corrected, you actually physically, to do FBA in Canada, you have to have FBA stock there. Yes. I think one of the other barriers is the paperwork to get the goods into Canada is a little bit more onerous than into other countries. But we're a little bit off topic.
Sorry,
but
yeah. Back
no,
on
no, it's me as well. It's not just you.
Yeah.
Okay. Can I just quickly ask that we can open up another poll before we move into the other EU considerations? Yes. So I'm just opening up another poll. It's asking how far down you are in the audience, how far down you are in your Amazon journey. So if you want to pop over to the poll tab, and you can see everything there. So you're just starting, first year selling, 1 to 2 years selling, or 3+ years selling. If you pop over there, that'd be great. Thanks.
You love a poll, don't you, mate?
Oh, tell me about it. Only if you dance around it.
Which is doing jokes as well now, whatever it is. Okay, other EU considerations. What have we got coming up here?
I'd like to see Anthony on the poll. Right, okay, let's see other EU considerations, part 1. Go on, take away.
It would bend. Okay, the question we get asked all the time about Europe is, we've recognised that we need to have, in fact, it's a condition of your terms of service, that in Germany you have to have German listings. Do you have to have German packaging of your otherwise English products or American products that you're selling? And the question is, does it really matter here? Well, there's two camps here. Given that the goods are being fulfilled from the UK, whether it's an American or British product, all probably originated from China anyway. It's fair to say that mainland Europe, they appreciate the British stuff. They understand it's British. Maybe since Brexit a bit less, but I've never had any complaints. I've never had anybody make any comment that in buying the product, because most of the packaging gets thrown away. I think if you've got a technical product, if you've got certain instructions that need to be used, then obviously it makes sense to have that in the local language. But in terms of standard packaging that typically gets thrown away, I wouldn't worry about making local language packaging. And I think the advice here once again is, for example, make Germany a success and then invest in the packaging, because you then know that investment has already paid for itself. Another consideration when we were asked about product research in places like Germany and France, it's an interesting thing because unlike if you're looking to launch a product in the States, you're going to go in, you're going to do some research and actually see if there's a market for it. The way we're advising people to launch in the UK and then into Europe is to have your product for sale in the UK and just switch it on in Europe, and for $10 or $20 you've got a translation and you're in business. And in a way, that is the product research in itself. So if you're selling, salad spinners in the UK, switch it on in Germany and France. If you're getting a few sales, invest more in translation. If you're getting a lot more sales, invest in local packaging, and so on and so forth. So it's fair to say, in terms of size of market, the American market, followed by the British markets, are the largest two, closely followed by the German market, and then there's a big gap to the French, and the Spanish and Italians are lagging much further behind. So there is an argument to say, well, we actually don't need to do European product research. I know, I think I heard the other day Jungle Scout are looking to launch a French version early next year. So if you're selling garlic presses, onion strings, bicycles, things like that, flat caps, then you can do the research on those. But my advice, and we love the French, just in case there's anybody French in the room, but my advice is to use your products and switch them on from the UK and do your research that way. It's a very good starting point for the additional revenue that you're going to get. If it sells better in the UK, bring more stock in, bring stock into Europe. You know, and as I said, you're unlikely to start in a European country. You're probably more likely going to start in the UK because of the similarity of language, and you can expand from there. Okay, a couple of other things to consider when you are set up in Europe. The Europeans love to ask for an invoice. So you will get a message. It won't be dear anything, kind regards. There's no salutations. It is in German. Give us an invoice.
Yeah.
Okay. Cut and paste into Google Translate. It says the word invoice. And then what I do is I use an Excel template. I cut and paste their order in. I send it in English. My cover email is further to your invoice request, please find attached an invoice. Apologies, but English is my first language. And I've never had any complaints from that. In fact, a lot of the time, a couple of times I even missed an invoice request and didn't send it. 6 months down the track I realised, and I'd never had any complaints or follow-up. So I think it's almost you know, when they're bored, there's nothing on television, let's go and ask some people for invoices. I'd send them if you can, because you know you're being duly diligent. Send it in English, you're not going to get any complaints. We get asked about, you know, what happens if you get asked customer questions, you get messages, you know, about your products in Germany or France or wherever. You can generally get the gist of what the question is from Google Translate. A number of times when it's messages where I'm replying back directly to a customer, I'll write back in English and I'll apologise. And more often than not, maybe 70–80% of the time or higher, they'll write back to me in English, and they're very happy, and they become your little pen pal because they're actually happy to test their English on you, and you know, tell you that your mother's a goldfish and that they eat spam sandwiches. But you can generally get your question answered, get their question answered. If you find that it's a very important issue, if it's something that has got serious consequences for your store, and the customer is very upset, then I would quickly use a Fiverr translator, or I'd use one of my other reviewers that I've courted over the years, and I'd actually put them in contact and get them to resolve and translate for me the problem and get it solved. Okay, so that brings us to the end of the getting set up in Europe by way of translations, product reviews, stock, and some other questions. We're going to move into company setup and VAT and all those sort of things in a moment. I just think we should just quickly throw it open for any questions on what has just gone before. Just throw them up on the sidebar. We'll just take a moment, and then we'll continue with. Is this a relative, Danny?
That's the old man.
What is this? Advice 50 cents, good advice $2. That's cute.
Mm. And
okay,
it's not clip art either.
No, it's very good. It's very good. Yeah. I get really upset when I see the slides in advance of these meetings, because I like the surprises to see what Danny's been playing with.
Oh, you'd be surprised at the stuff that I get edited from Richard that I'm not allowed to put up. So you're quite lucky. I've had your head on a stick and everything.
He's a dark horse, isn't he?
Yeah.
Okay, so what we're going to do now is we're going to move on to talk about if you live outside the UK, but you want to trade on Amazon.co.uk and into Europe. So we're going to go through our recommendation of how to get set up. Now, there's a number of ways to do it, and we'll take questions about them and we'll debate them as we go. But if you are not a UK resident, or even if you are, we'd always recommend setting up a UK company to trade on Amazon. So let's take it, and the scenario we're going to take is you're based in America, you're probably successfully trading on Amazon.com, and you've heard about Europe and you want to give it a crank. The best way to do it is to establish a UK company. Now, It's really simple. It's not onerous. Nobody goes to jail for it. We don't shoot people in the UK. We run them down with what?
Not often we shoot them. Not as much as they do in other countries, anyway.
No, it's a little bit more prevalent in other countries, but let's not go there.
No.
I've still got to walk home later.
Yes.
So, so basically, the first thing we say is set up a UK company. You can go onto the government website, which is at the bottom there, gov.uk. Anything gov.uk, it's ridiculous. The British government, and it doesn't matter what your politics are, because I don't know who created this stuff, but the government websites in the UK are really, really good, particularly around setting up companies, VAT and all those sort of things, and we'll steer you to those, not out of laziness, but they're very, very simple to use. So you can go online at gov.uk, register a company online. You can pay £15, and you can, within 30 minutes, you can have a company. And 1 or 2 days later, they will email you the memorandum and articles of association and all the basic agreements you have and your certificate of incorporation, and you're up and running, you're in business. You are legally a company at that point in time. Now, you can use a UK accountant to do that for you, and he will ask you exactly the same questions as the online site will ask you, and he will pass that on to an agency who he uses to set up companies for people, and that will usually cost you about £100 to £200. So it depends how busy you are, it depends how click literate you are. If you're on Amazon, you're probably very click literate. My recommendation is what I do: go online, click a few buttons, use a credit card, 15 quid, job done. Go back. Thank you. Now go forward. It's just these kids, you've just got to keep them in line. As soon as they start clicking.
Do you see that? That was just a little power play, wasn't it? Just to make sure I was paying attention.
Okay, then the next thing to do is to enlist a UK accountant. You can do it all without an accountant, and as soon as somebody says accountant, you start seeing big pound signs or dollar signs coming up. It's not that expensive. Stay away from London-based accounting firms. There are smaller people in London that can do the job for you. You're not going to do an Enron. You're not going to be sinking, oil rigs in the middle of the ocean. You're not about to be setting up pyramid schemes and things like that. You're just setting up a company. You're trading very ordinarily through it. It's really not rocket science. It's just an accountant's job is to keep ahead of the rules, the regulations, and just double check that you're on the right path. So, and the other thing, and it's essential to use an accountant for this part, particularly if you're setting up from the States, is that you can then set yourself up as a local UK company rather than an overseas operating UK company, because your accountant will allow you, once you identified yourself to the accountant, to use their UK address as their registered office. And you can still do all the admin yourself, but they'll charge you a small amount of money each year. I think it's like 40 or 50 quid to be able to use the registered office. Anything comes through, they scan it and send it to you and say this arrived, that arrived. You can either ask them to complete the paperwork, or you can do it yourself. It comes down to time and how literate you are. It just makes everything easier, and particularly when you start getting into VAT, then that's probably a better route to go. I thought Danny was going to do a power play then and not give me the next slide. Danny's running the slide deck for those of you that are trying to understand the scrap that's going on.
I've got to have a job in this partnership of mine, so I'm in charge of pushing the button that sends the slides forward.
But also, you are the key red T-shirt wearer as well.
That's right, yeah.
Exactly. Anyway, so let's look at this. Who did this slide? Okay, so UK entity versus US entity. If you use a US company or another non-UK trading entity, whether it's out of Panama even, Venezuela or whatever, you will need to register for VAT within 4 weeks of your, it's supposed to be as soon as possible, but no later than 4 weeks of your first import or your first trade through that entity. And whereas if you're trading for a UK company, you may not need to register for VAT initially. And probably not. It depends on turnover. But and not needing to register for VAT, as we'll cover in just a moment, is going to be a huge cost saving for you. And there are other schemes that you can use to mitigate VAT, which your accountant can discuss with you when you get to that point, based on the type and nature of your business. Okay. So let's look at the raw costs of running a company in the UK. You'll have to file an annual return for your UK company. You can do it online. It takes about 10 minutes. And all you're doing is you're confirming that the directors and shareholders are the same and no details of the company have changed. And I think you pay £10 annually online to do that update. It takes 30 minutes. Your accounting costs to get a fairly reasonable accountant. I use one based out of Nottingham. He is one chartered accountant with about 20 account clerks that work around him. £1 million turnover, you're looking at spending less than £3,000 a year on accounting fees. And I would say up to about £300,000 turnover, based on, and this is based on a fairly ordinary Amazon business, you're looking at spending about £1,000 a year. And that's a great investment of funds. And it's probably the only guaranteed cost that we'd recommend for you when you're setting up in Europe. Okay, let's quickly look at UK bank accounts. Are you going to take us through this, Danny?
No, I'll let you do this one.
See, I try to involve him.
No.
I invite him to my parties, to my house.
No, I can't let you have the power play. You must do this slide yourself.
Okay, so a lot of people contact us and say, how do I get a UK bank account set up? I'm in Texas. You know, and as much as the UK is a beautiful country and we welcome all the tourists to come along and see Her Majesty and a couple of horses trotting around, it's very hard, almost impossible, and I'd say almost impossible, to set up a UK business bank account without being in the country. So if you happen to be in the UK, you can probably pop into a bank, and you'll need to present them with an address, which will be your registered address of the company via your accountant, and you'll need to identify yourself, and you'll be able to get a bank account that way. But if you're not planning to make a trip by way of holiday or business, you're not going to be able to open a UK business bank account remotely, unless you're doing ridiculous amounts of turnover, in which case you could be introduced by your American bank to their partner bank in the UK. So what we do and what we recommend is to open up a Currencies Direct e-tailer account. It's a free bank account, and it's either in this example, it's either in UK pounds or euros. If you're in the UK trading into the States, it's in dollars. Okay. So what you do in your setup in Amazon.co.uk and also in each of the European Amazon sites is you go into the settings, and instead of putting your American bank account, or in the other way around, if you're trading from the UK, going into Amazon.com and putting in your UK bank account, you put in a Currencies Direct bank account that they give you. And it's in the local currency that market trades in. And by doing that, go back. By doing that, Amazon, when Amazon pay you, Amazon will be paying into the Currencies Direct account, and then your relationship with Currencies Direct take over in terms of how you repatriate the funds to your home bank account.
Okay, so I'll pick up from here. So one of the key things that a lot of people forget to factor in, especially when they're working out their cost, is the conversion rate of bringing their revenue back from their disbursement. So for instance, most people here should be aware of is that Amazon charges 4%, which is off your gross earnings that come back through your disbursements, which is a lot of money in some cases. Now, if you use someone like Currencies Direct, they'll charge between 1% and 2%. And if you're doing very large numbers, then I think there is an opportunity to negotiate even further. So really, you can start to bring your charges down as per what your turnover you are generating. So this is the breakdown. Anthony alluded to how this works, but here's a diagram here of how the collection accounts break down. So sell your goods on overseas marketplaces. Your customers are paying in foreign currencies. And so what happens is you've got a two-part conversion here. It's either going to go direct from the marketplaces to your bank account via Amazon at 4%, or you end up using an e-tailer account like Anthony mentioned, and then you'll have a negotiated rate between 1% and 2%, or maybe lower, depends on what kind of turnover that you're doing. Okay, Anthony.
Okay, we're going to talk about VAT.
Is your mum there? Look.
She's very square, isn't she? Right. Okay, now, VAT. This is an interesting one. Let me just pull up the chat line again. Where has it gone? I'll get there eventually.
What about having...
There we go. Right. Say again, Richard?
No, sorry, I thought you were searching for a question. Go on. Okay,
so let's talk about VAT. So, understanding VAT on retail sales. VAT, value added tax, is UK sales tax. So, in America you have sales tax. In the States, if you go into a shop and you buy something for $20, at the till, sales tax gets added on. In the UK, when you go into a shop and you buy something for £20, that price on the retail tag already includes VAT. Okay. Now there are some categories such as baby clothes. I think books are zero VAT items, and the current VAT rate in the UK across the whole of the UK is 20%. In fact, am I correct in saying 20% all across Europe, isn't it, or not?
I'm not too clear on that, to be honest with you.
Okay, so basically the big difference, and the first thing to understand about VAT is when you go into a store in the States and you buy something for $20, they add the tax onto that, and you might pay $22 or $23, whatever the number works out to be. When you go into the UK shop and you pick up something and it's got a price on there of £20, that's all you pay, and that price includes the VAT. Okay, so then as the seller of that item in that store, the VAT that's part of that price is collected by you and it's passed over to the government. And you pay that to the government usually every 3 months. There are some schemes that allow you to do it once a year, and there are other schemes where you do it monthly. For example, if you're VAT registered in Germany, you are doing a monthly VAT return. But reasonably and ordinarily, you'll be doing it every 3 months in the UK. Now, here's an interesting thing. When you look at tools such as Jungle Scout, where you're going in and going, I want to sell salad spinners in the UK, Jungle Scout is analysing the products and their rankings and the number of sales. It's giving you the figures which are essentially including sales tax. And there should be an option within Jungle Scout to allow you to put in a sales tax amount and net that off, so you can actually see the real figure for what you're paying. So that's the first thing to understand about VAT on retail sales. Now, what that means is that the government in the UK have said that everything that is in the UK, unless it's in a category that doesn't have sales tax, such as baby goods, everything that's in the UK has to be carrying VAT, such that if it's sold on, that VAT is collected and passed on to the government. So when you import goods into the UK, so typically if you're bringing a container in from China, the UK government sees those goods coming in as goods coming in without VAT. So at the time of import, it adds the VAT on, and then effectively, as the importer, you've purchased those goods. So it's kind of like you've bought them from a Chinese manufacturer, but as far as the UK government is concerned, is you've bought them from the UK as a British transaction, and it wants VAT on that. So that's why when you import goods into the UK, VAT gets added on because they come in without VAT, and the UK government says, no, 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 no. They're in a category that attracts VAT. They have to be in the UK with VAT. So you bought them for $10,000. We're going to add on VAT, and we're going to take that VAT now because you've bought those goods. You've purchased those goods. Okay? A lot of people get very upset about why they have to pay VAT on import. It's because all goods in the UK carry VAT with them as part of the purchase. So, and the way the British government calculates the VAT is they take the manufacturing costs via your commercial invoice, and they add on your shipping costs, and they add on any insurance that you may have taken for your shipment. And it's a slightly quirky formula where if you work out the percentage at 20% of your manufacturing costs, your shipping costs and insurance, it won't be exactly 20% because the formula's got a couple of little quirks in it. And what freight forwarders do, because the calculation can be quite tricky, they'll just add on 50 quid for something, and they'll just round it up to expedite the thing quickly. So if you think that your VAT you should be paying an import is £3,000, it might be 3,020 or it might be 2,980. But that's the way it happens, and the government is happy that freight forwarders do it in that way. And that amount is paid for you, but paid by you at the time of import. And what you do is you pay your freight forwarder or your courier, and they pay the tax man. So it's a huge consideration when you're bringing product into UK and Europe, in that the goods are coming in without VAT, and you have to put that VAT on it and pay it over to the tax man straight away. Just the same as you go into a shop and you buy a shirt, you're not paying the ex-VAT amount, you're paying the VAT included amount, and the person that you've bought it from is paying the VAT or sales tax over to the government. Here, the importer, yourself, and the shipping company are levied that VAT amount, and that gets paid over to the government. And that makes all goods in the UK VAT inclusive. So if you didn't sell those goods on, you've bought them as a VAT inclusive transaction, the government's got its VAT. Okay. So let's not make any disparaging comments about Danny's family or anybody else's family. We don't go there.
I like the shot though. She's pondering, isn't she? She's in deep thought. She looks intelligent. I think what does it is the colander on her head.
You got the same hair as well.
Yeah.
This is actually one of Danny's product photographs. He sells colanders, and he's always looking for ways to innovate, to show the products other uses.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. So we've just covered that when the goods come in, you've got to pay that VAT, just the same as if you go into a shop, you're paying the VAT as part of the VAT inclusive price. So you've paid for your goods, you've also paid out for your shipping, and you've also paid out a wedge of money for VAT. Now, then you're trading as a company and you're putting those goods up for sale. You from the start, you don't necessarily have to worry about VAT registration. If you are a UK company operating as a UK company, you do not need to register for VAT unless your turnover exceeds £83,000 in a rolling 12-month period. Now, that does not mean that until you're doing £83,000 you don't have to pay VAT on import. That's completely separate. What it means is that you can sell a product for £20 and the government says, even though that £20 is a VAT inclusive price, you don't need to deduct the VAT from the proceeds of that sale and pay it over to the government until your business is doing £83,000 turnover in a rolling 12 months. And in a way, it's a concession from the government for businesses that are doing smaller turnovers, and it means that their costs are lower because you pocket the proceeds of the sale, and it also means your company administration is simpler. So it's a concession by the government, and it's an amount, and that amount does change when there's a budget. That amount can change. At the moment, it's at £83,000. Okay. Now you can register for VAT from the start, irrespective of your turnover. And you can apply for various VAT schemes that best suit your business, and how you structure your business, and we'll go through some examples in a moment, and Monica's got a question on the side which we'll take as we go through.
Yeah.
But the thing to understand is that when you set up a business in the UK, Amazon gives you an opportunity to put your VAT number in. If you don't put your VAT number in, Amazon will charge you VAT on some of their fees. So when you look at the Amazon rate card, when you're working out your profit spreadsheet, you've got your manufacturing cost, your shipping costs, you've now got your VAT cost on import that you need to consider, at least from a cash flow point of view. When you see an Amazon fee of £1.70, Amazon are going to charge you £1.70 plus 20% at time of sale. Okay, so you'll get less out of the fees will be higher, you'll get less out of the sale, which is something you need to consider as part of your profitability.
Okay, at that point, can I just ask the third poll of our audience? So this question is asking, what's your average monthly revenue on Amazon, which kind of relates to the numbers we're talking about at the moment. So can I just fire that up, and if you don't mind going over to the polls section and answering the questions there. What's your average monthly revenue on Amazon? Thanks.
Okay, so Monica's asked a question, can you claim VAT you get charged for imported goods? And we'll explain that as we go through here. So there's basically a couple of schemes that you can look at for VAT. So scheme number one is once your UK 12-month rolling turnover exceeds £83,000, you then have to ask the next question to yourself, and it's not audited, it's your question for you. Is your projected turnover for the next 12 months going to exceed £150,000? So if you are doing, you've started your business, you've got £83,000 turnover, and you know that you're going to do £300,000, £400,000 turnover in the next 12 months, you can't go on this scheme. And if you go on this scheme and then you subsequently get a VAT audit and you can't defend the assumption you made about not exceeding £150,000, you will get fined, you'll pay interest at a fairly high rate on VAT that the government will deem that you should have paid because you were on the wrong scheme. So this scenario is for a business that has reached £83,000 turnover, and your projected turnover for the next 12 months won't exceed £150,000. This is called the interim VAT scheme. Now, it's not guaranteed that you get this, you have to apply for it. Okay, I've never heard of anyone being turned down, but you have to apply for it. You apply for it online, click a few boxes once again, takes about 30 minutes. And in applying for this scheme, there's various rates of VAT that the government offers you based on the category of services you're offering. So we've fast-tracked this for an Amazon business, a retail business. And the fee on the flat rate scheme is 7.5%. And in the first year of being on this scheme, the government gives you a 1% discount to 6.5%. And then this is against all of your EU turnover. Unless, of course, you're VAT registered in the EU countries, in which case this becomes your UK turnover. So what that means is that if you turn over £100,000 in a year on this scheme, you will take 6.5% of the £100,000, or £6,500, and if you'd earned that revenue equally over the year, you'll take £6,500 and you'll pay that in 4 payments at each quarter through the year. Okay? So it's not 6.5% is the VAT rate, 6.5% is the rate of the percentage of turnover you pay. Now, a lot of people make the mistake because a VAT inclusive price of 20% is actually, I think it's 16.67% of the purchase price is the VAT amount. Where this is 6.5% of the sale price of your goods. Okay, so you sell £10,000 in a VAT period of 3 months. You will be paying £650. So you'll be paying £650 to the taxman. Okay, that is significantly cheaper by more than 10% than if you're on the full VAT scheme, which we'll come on to in a moment. The downside of this scheme is you cannot claim back the VAT you've paid on importing the goods. So you can't offset the VAT collected from sales against the VAT paid out on import. Okay? However, let's say you've brought in £100,000 worth of stock, you've paid the VAT on it, and your turnover reaches £83,000, and you're still sitting with £50,000 worth of stock, you can claim the VAT on stock on hand back as part of your first VAT return. Once you're on this scheme, all you have to do, and it's called the interim scheme, for Richard who's asking that on the side, interim VAT scheme. Once you're on this scheme, and if you click through the government website to register for VAT, you'll be presented with this option. Once you're on this scheme, you trade along, and you only have to recheck your turnover annually. So when you're on the scheme, you check your turnover, and if your turnover in the next 12 months is going to pass £230,000, then you can't stay on the scheme. If your turnover, so let's typically say you've traded for 9 months, you've reached £83,000 turnover, you join this scheme, as long as you know and believe that you're not going to do more than £150,000 in the next 12 months. On the anniversary of joining this scheme, you look again at your turnover and your projected turnover. If your turnover has passed 230,000, or in the next 12 months is going to pass 230,000, then you have to leave this scheme and go on to the full scheme, which we'll go on to in a moment. Whereas it's called the flat rate scheme. Thank you, Monica. I've just renamed it for the government. That's the power we have, the power of social media. So Monica very kindly has shared with us, it's called the flat rate scheme.
Yes.
So when you assess yourself after a year, and you don't think that your turnover in the next 12 months is going to exceed £230,000, you can stay on this scheme for another year, and the rate would increase to 7.5%. And then you just do that test annually. So if you're a business that's trading at around about £180,000, £200,000 turnover a year, this is a brilliant scheme. The other brilliant thing about this scheme is that if you are out of the country, you're not picking up office space, VAT charges, you're not picking up any other VAT charges. So there's very little VAT that you're paying out as part of running your business that you would otherwise claim back if you're on the full scheme. So this is a very smart scheme, and once again, the government has discounted the rate of VAT for you to make a business have a better chance of growing to the next level of turnover. So let's move on to the next. Danny held me on that slide for a very long time. I don't know why.
Just get moving, will you? Jesus.
No, it's important to understand this.
Yeah. So is paint drying on the wall. Go on. Okay. Scheme
2 is the standard VAT scheme, and Monica will very kindly give us the proper name of that in just a moment.
Come on, Monica. What's the name for it, please?
Come on, Monica. You can't just get one question right. So Scheme 2 is the ordinary VAT scheme, which we'll rename in a moment when Monica finds the page in Google. And you can join this at any point in time. So what a lot of people do is they set up a business and they know that they're importing a lot of goods from day one, or they're going to be spending a lot on day one, and they're going to be paying out a lot of VAT. So a lot of people join this scheme from day one, and you can immediately claim all the VAT back that you've paid, and you actually get a check back from the government. And if you are incurring a lot of costs and you're not going to be incurring a lot of revenue based on how you're setting up your business, this is a good scheme to join. However, it's VAT at 20%. Okay, so you join this. It's mandatory to join this scheme if you once you've reached £83,000. If you project your turnover in the following 12 months will exceed 150,000, or if you're on Scheme 1 and your turnover is going to exceed 230,000, it's mandatory to join this scheme. So then what happens is you collect VAT from within your sales, which is 20% VAT inclusive, which is about 16.67%. And you take that money, which might be £3,000 worth of VAT from your sales, and then you deduct any VAT that you've paid out in that same accounting period of 3 months. For example, if you've imported more goods and you've paid £1,000 VAT on import, you've collected £3,000 of VAT as part of your sales transactions, you net the two off on your VAT submission and you pay the difference. Okay? And this scheme works out more expensive than the, what did Monica call it, the interim, the flat rate scheme.
The flat rate scheme, yeah.
But this is for proper grown-up businesses, where if after passing 83,000, you know you're going to pass 150,000, the government are saying to you, well, you must be doing something really good, you're doing really well, you must be an established business, take on this admin, take on these additional costs, that's your contribution towards the government's coffers and what they're going to do with it. And if you've gone on the interim scheme, your business has grown, if in the following year you're going to do 230,000, you go onto this scheme. And it's quite simple. Everything you sell, you're collecting VAT on behalf of the government. That amount of money, less any VAT you've paid out on business expenses, you net the two off and you pay the difference over. A couple of quick things on this before we push on. Once you're on any VAT scheme, if you're UK based, it doesn't affect your American sales. Okay, so you don't have any sales outside of Europe are not covered by VAT. Okay. Now the other thing is when you are a UK seller, if you use your UK company to set up in Amazon.com, Amazon.com will ask you for a VAT number. And if you provide the VAT number, you don't pay any VAT in Amazon.com. Whereas if you don't provide the VAT number, Amazon will charge you VAT on your fees once again. Okay. And it's a bizarre thing because VAT doesn't apply with American transactions, but it's something America does, and it's collecting that VAT and it's paying it over to the British or European country government. Okay. Let's just see, before we go into customs, can we just stay on that last slide, Danny? Sorry, and just see if there's any questions on the side there. Scheme 1 from Nikki is called the, what did Monica call it now?
It's the flat rate scheme.
The flat rate scheme. It is called the flat rate scheme. It may not be called the flat rate scheme, but that's what Monica has told us.
No, that's what it is
actually
called.
If you're prepared to believe Monica, it's a flat rate scheme, and the standard scheme is called the standard scheme.
It's called the standard scheme.
Right. Any questions on VAT? Richard said something on the side. Thanks. What do you think about Amazon turnover within Seller Central?
Yeah, it's got another question above that says, which turnover do you use?
In terms of calculating VAT, it is your sales less any refunds returned. So you've got to net those two off, because in theory, if there's a refund or a return, the customer's been returned and you haven't collected the VAT. So it's your net sales.
Okay.
But it's sales before fees come out. So if you're selling a product for £20, it's the £20 it's the VAT as part of the £20 that you have to pay over. It's not, I've sold it for £20, Amazon have taken my fees, my freight forwarder's taken my fees, I've bought a couple of cups of coffee, I've paid my VAT on input. If you sell something for £20, you take the VAT from the £20 sale, and that's what gets paid over to the government. Okay, right, okay, Leanne is a bit confused. So Leanne is saying VAT threshold. So the VAT threshold for registration for VAT is £83,000 in a rolling 12 months. That's correct. But once you pass £83,000, you then have to apply a test. And if the test is if in the following 12 months your turnover is going to go over 150,000, you can't go on the interim scheme. You have to go on the full scheme or the standard scheme. Okay. So, and then just finally, before we move off that, Jeff is saying you pay VAT on import and then you get it all back. Not necessarily. If you're on the interim scheme, you can't.
Flat rate scheme.
The what? Flat rate scheme.
Flat rate scheme, not the one you keep making up. Give people the right information.
So there's two VAT schemes, Jeff. The
Anthony scheme, yeah.
There's Anthony's scheme that's called the interim scheme, otherwise known as the flat rate scheme.
Yeah.
On the flat rate scheme, you can only, when you go onto that scheme, you can claim the VAT back on any stock you're holding that you've paid out, but you can't claim VAT back. So you pay a lower amount of VAT based on your sales, but you can't claim back the VAT that you're spending when you're importing goods. The net effect of that, reasonably, is you're better off than being on the standard scheme. If you're on the standard scheme, you're taking 20% of the sales price of your item, and you're paying that over to the government, less any VAT your company has paid out in the same VAT reporting period of 3 months, which if you've imported goods within that period of time, you can deduct. So it's not, I've sold a pink shirt on the 22nd of March, therefore I'll deduct the VAT I paid on the import of that shirt from the 1st of January. It doesn't line up product to product, it lines up transaction to transaction. So I've sold 50 shirts, I've got to pay £1,000 VAT to the government based on the sales within the reporting period. During that reporting period, I imported 1,000 green shirts and paid £750 of import VAT. I will offset the two and pay the difference over. Okay. All right, let's move on to customs, and then we'll take any more VAT questions at the end. So customs is another tax that we're hit with, or another duty that we're hit with as we import. Once again, it's paid. It's a duty that's paid mostly for product that is imported from outside of. It's a duty that's paid for products imported outside of Europe, from outside of Europe. Now, for some countries, and some product categories, the rate is 0. And other categories I've seen as high as 8.5%. Have you seen any higher, Danny or Richard?
Say that again.
The import duty I've seen as low as 0%.
Yes.
For importing.
I pay on two ends of the spectrum. I pay 7.4 and 0%.
Okay. The highest I've seen is 8.5% on import. I don't know if you've seen any higher.
Pretty heavy. No, I haven't seen that much higher than that.
Okay. It's just nuclear waste is quite expensive when you're bringing that in. Anyway, so basically on import, your goods will also be assessed based on the whatever duty category they're in. Now there's a lookup for that, gov.uk/trade-tariff. It's a little bit complicated. There used to be a phone line where you could phone and you got 3 questions to get your trade tariff answered. Now they've flipped that over to be an email service, but it's a very good email service. So if you're looking to import, plastic salad spinners, you can go into that trade tariff site and you can find the trade tariff you're part of, or at a 2-day wait, you can turn around and email to them and find out the percentage. And that's an important cost to consider as part of your profit spreadsheet where you're considering whether to import the goods or not. You can't claim it back under any circumstance or under in any fashion. It's a cost you incur when you bring the product in, and once again, depending on how you're importing, if you're importing via a freight forwarder, a shipper, or a courier, they'll pay that money for you. You pay them before the goods will be released. And then what you do, and the reason to look it up is you want your manufacturer to print the trade tariff code on your cartons before import, because then what happens is customs, who are busy, they see a trade tariff code on the side on a very large box, and if the trade tariff code looks reasonable, your goods may not get inspected at all, or they'll do a sample inspection and they'll use that code, which is also declared on your commercial invoice. They'll use that code to work out your customs fee that you need to pay. Okay. Okay. Now, I'm going to quickly run through the summary slide, and I'm just going to give you a couple of grey hat, black hat things that people do to avoid. I think the point that we're going to make about Europe is that the Amazon.com is by far the biggest market in the world for trading on Amazon. The UK consumer, per head of the population, spends more online than any other consumer in the world. So we shouldn't overlook the UK consumer, and we shouldn't overlook the European markets, because whilst they're smaller than Amazon.com, they are in some areas, in a lot of areas, less competitive. They're a lot more polite, a lot more pleasant. There's there's less bad stuff happens in the UK European markets than happens on .com, by way of hijackers, by way of aggressive competitors, bad, dark, horrible stuff happening. Getting established in the UK and in Europe, as I hopefully we've highlighted to you today, is straightforward and it's easy. Danny's saying of KISS, which stands for?
Keep it silly simple.
Okay. And bite-sized chunks. So once again, with everything on Amazon, it's just taking a chunk of it, implementing it, whether it's a translation, whether it's a pay-per-click campaign. Take a chunk, implement it, move on. Take a chunk, implement it, move on. There are more steps setting up in Europe, at least by way of translations and so on, than starting in the USA, but it's not a reason not to do it. The most important thing to take away from today is you need a different spreadsheet to work out your profits, and particularly your cash flow, because if, as a lot of us do, we throw a lot of money at our stock to then get hit with a VAT bill, which on a container of goods I'm bringing in, I'm getting hit with about £5,000–6,000. It's a big bill if you haven't budgeted for it as part of your planning. And I think when you look reasonably, and it will vary by customer, by seller to seller, when you look at the opportunity in Europe, you could be looking to take your Amazon.com sales and properly implement in Europe. You could be increasing those by 50% by making that move over to the UK and Europe. So it's a huge opportunity. Now, a couple of quick grey hat, black hat things that some people do. First of all, Chinese manufacturers will offer to write a commercial invoice with any price on it you like. So if you're importing salad spinners and your commercial invoice should say that you've paid $10,000 for them, a Chinese manufacturer will give you an invoice with $5,000 on it. As a result of that, you'll pay less VAT, you'll pay less duty. However, the customs department in the UK are not silly, and they know the price of a salad spinner. They're big burly guys and girls opening up boxes and looking through all the products. But they know what a salad spinner should cost on import. So it's a practice that people do, and they either get caught at customs, goods get impounded, and you could get into very big trouble, or your company could undergo a VAT audit, and quite simply they'll see a banking transaction going out to China for $10,000, but your commercial invoice will say $5,000. So it's not exactly Enron, and you're going to get found out very quickly. So that's a black hat, grey hat thing.
But can you also, is it true that you could get, if you would add the inspection, there's also that you could get banned from exporting or importing, being caught in that territory?
I haven't heard that specifically, but the thing I'd say in general to that is the one government department in the UK that you don't mess with
is the VAT man, yeah.
Is the VAT man. The VAT man can close your business down in 5 minutes. So you could be late paying your freight forwarder, you could be late paying somebody in China, but the moment you're late paying the VAT man, they jump all over you like there's no tomorrow. So it's just be organised, have your spreadsheets in good order, and even if you're going to put a VAT submission in where maybe there's an error that you're going to correct later, just don't not put one in, because you're going to get into a lot of trouble. Okay, so that's Europe. I think that's our last slide, and there are our contact details. We'll take some questions on the side if anyone's got some they want to throw up. There's how to get hold of myself and Danny and Richard. We are live on the AmazonSeller.com. We have a Facebook group, facebook.com/group/Amsters, where we continue our conversations and we try to help people. And if we can't help, we say we can't. Then we've got 2 meetup groups, one that meets in and around London, meetup.com, the AmazonSeller_UK, meetup.com, the AmazonSeller_SoCal for our Los Angeles meeting. And I think our next Los Angeles meeting is the 19th, I think, from memory. So any questions on VAT? Hello, Danny.
Hello. I'm back. Do we have any questions in the room? No?
Shy bunch tonight, shy bunch. We did have a couple of questions that we didn't get through. Richard B asked when we were talking about the e-tailer accounts. Can you use e-tailer account dollars to buy stock?
No. And it's not because Currencies Direct don't want to offer that. It is because the various governments around the world won't allow them to do that. So if Amazon.co.uk pays the e-tailer account £5,000, the only thing Currencies Direct can do with that money is they can repatriate it back to the country of origin, which is, in this example, would be America. Now, so you're going to pay that currency conversion fee there. Equally, if you're trading from the UK and you get paid out in dollars into your Currencies Direct account, you can't divert those dollars to China. You have to divert them back to the UK, but you can negotiate with Currencies Direct so that they bring in $5,000 from the US to the UK, and if they send out $4,000 to your Chinese manufacturer at the same time, then Dennis is going to play that slide for while I'm talking. So if you've got $5,000 in your Currencies Direct account in the States, it sends it back to the UK. If you're sending it straight out to China, Currencies Direct, you can negotiate with them. We'll give you one conversion fee, not two.
Yes, he was getting to.
Okay, so Jeff's saying he's looking to use a business in Canada to keep accounting simple. Do you really think you should register your UK business? It comes down to what you're going to save on VAT, and it's a cost line in your spreadsheet. The administration for VAT running an account in the UK, you're probably going to spend 15 to 20 hours a year to administer a UK company. So you've got to do the cost benefit analysis in terms of, for that amount of admin, a trusted accountant, a couple of £1,000, what you're going to save in the long run. And Jeff's saying, yes, I mean, you'll still pay the import VAT on the goods, but you won't have to, you're correct, you won't have to do any VAT or UK business admin, but that's your choice.
Okay, John's also asking, how do you guys think Brexit will affect this if you're outside the UK?
I think Brexit's a bit of smoke and mirrors at the moment. The interesting thing about Brexit is that people are talking about trade tariffs or not. Germany exports more stuff to the UK than the UK exports to Germany. So when the Germans get tough and go, well, there's going to be trade tariffs, there's massive industries in Germany that will be massively impacted from those trade tariffs. So I think what we're going to have is a situation where it's going to be business as usual. It just means that the UK will have tougher borders, and the UK will have great business relationships with other countries in the world because the European Parliament is a paraplegic, and you can tell how I voted. I'm not sure if I prefer the cat or Danny.
You like the cat? We can bring the cat back.
Family member or?
Yes, my cat. Do you like it?
So Robbie's asking, what do you need to establish an address in the UK? A house or a flat. I've got a couple for sale at the moment. If you want to just, I'll give you my bank account details. You can send me some money.
Yeah.
No, basically, to get a UK address, you will need to use, for a company, you will need to engage with a UK accountant, and once you've identified yourself correctly to the accountant, he will allow you to use his office as the registered address for your company, and then you'll have a UK address.
I think the question was, do you need to establish a UK address? I guess it depends where you are, Robbie.
Yeah, it gets quite cold in the UK, so it's not advisable to be in the UK without a UK address. You guys, have you been drinking or something?
No, we've got a piece of software while you're talking that keeps us entertained.
Good. So, do you need a UK address? If you don't have a UK address, you are going to be considered a foreign a foreign operated British company.
Be careful with your C word.
What?
Be careful with your C words you're using there.
We don't use C words.
Yes.
So yeah, so UK address allows you to operate as a UK operated company and enjoy the VAT threshold of £83,000 and the flat rate scheme, or interim as Monica calls it. So if you're trading, if you set up a UK company and you use a foreign address, it just means you've got to register for VAT earlier. If you intend to create a company in the UK and you're based in Los Angeles, yeah. So if you are Los Angeles based, if you set up a UK company using a foreign address, you will have to register for VAT as you start trading. Whereas if you work with a UK accountant, you can use their registered office and you can be a UK based company and you can enjoy the advantages the government offers UK companies for VAT.
Cool. So any final questions? Do you have any more questions? Robbie's been quite vocal here, which is good, and so is John and Jeff. And where's the lovely Monica? Does anyone else want to talk about VAT or customs at all?
You can see these are Danny's favourite topics.
Yes, it sent me to sleep almost.
Okay, I think that's almost a wrap then, isn't it?
Yes, I think so.
Who's got a request here? Sharon has a request. That's an old request now.
No, I've checked with Sharon, there's nothing coming back. So are we happy to put the offer up now, Danny?
Yes, we'll put the slides up.
Right, so over on the offers tab now, you should be able to see a link that will give you access to the slides that were presented this evening. So if you want to go over there and pick them up, click on the link, and that should take you straight to them.
And don't forget to check into all the Facebook groups, and there'll be a new email going out regards to the Will Turland event coming up, our pay-per-click events, and obviously our physical meetup events in LA and in London. Anything to add, Anthony?
No, I think I've enjoyed spending time with you today, Danny. It's good to see you.
It's good to see you as well, Dad.
And Richard, when is the next movie being shot? And are you still going to be doing your own stunts?
Absolutely. I'm hoping to sign up pretty soon.
Yes.
Excellent.
He's looking more and more like Richard Gere every day, isn't he?
You boys, you spoil me. You just spoil me, you know.
Yes. All right. Thanks, guys. It's been a great audience, and thank you for spending time with us. I hope you enjoyed it and you got a lot from it. And obviously, send in questions and comments to Danny@theamazonseller.com, Anthony@theamazonseller.com, and Richard@theamazonseller.com. So I'm going to sign off. So I'll see you all soon.
Thank you, guys. Goodbye.
Bye.